Hi, this is Brooke at Star Oracles talking today about Rahu transiting Moon. I feel like this one's probably not too mysterious and maybe even obvious what comes up during this time. So I don't know if this is going to be as long as my other videos, but I was trying to think about people in my life who I knew had gone through certain times that were more emotionally intense than others. And um, one time that came to my mind was when my brother was deployed in Afghanistan and having to go through a lot of intense events, being in in combat and on the war zone. But another thing that happened was while he was there, somebody had sent him pictures of his wife in bed with another man to just try to let him know, like, hey, this is what's going on back at home. And so he had to deal with that in addition to what he was already going through. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, oh, that sounds like a Rahu transiting Moon time, among other things. And so I put those dates in my software, and sure enough, he did have Rahu transiting his moon while all that was going on. But this isn't like a transit that you're always going to see during the worst time of your life. It's not always going to coincide with losses and things like that. So it's really not as perilous as you might think, but it certainly is a time of often like big changes or upheaval or emotionally intense situations, and I'll try my best to get a bit more specific. So out of all the planets, Moon is already the most needs the most grounding due to its cyclical nature and it being the fastest moving planet. It's already kind of an unsteady planet that benefits from being grounded by other planets in the chart. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but the best situation for the moon to be in is to be neighboring planets or having certain planets conjunct it. And Rahu is really, the opposite of a grounding influence. Rahu's very ungrounding. So when you're going through this transit, you become restless. All those materialistic desires really get kind of amped up because Moon, the mind, the emotions, is being influenced by Rahu, which is very hungry and materialistic and kind of amps up what it's influencing. And Moon is all about getting one's needs met. And so when these come together, there's a lot of hunger. So in addition to feeling restless and unstable, a person can also feel very ambitious during this time, and they're becoming kind of aware of their needs in a bigger way, and it usually brings a lot of change because that restlessness or that discontent that so often surfaces during this time will propel them to make changes that perhaps really needed to be changed but hadn't until this transit occurred. But one thing to be aware of and stay mindful of is that during this transit, the means that you adopt to go after what you want may not be the best way, because Rahu can compromise a person's clarity because they can be more focused on just getting the desire aspect of it or just getting the needs met. So Rahu type things like dishonesty or just compromising your better judgment, those things can happen under this transit. If a person, has some mental health issues, this can be a time where it's kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back type of thing, and it can lead to big mental health breakdowns that, it's kind of like there are things leading up to it, and then during this time, that's when a person like really has a breakdown. You can see people really lose it during this time. If a person has any substance abuse issues or is going through experiences in life, this can be a time where they turn to substances to help them cope with it. And so, Rahu also represents poisons and things like that, and addictions. So Rahu transiting moon can kind of set the stage for addictions to become worse. I've seen this transit kind of be the breaking point where the addiction finally causes a blow up in their life. And so they hit rock bottom, and then they're able to finally acknowledge the severity of their addiction, of their issue, and then address it, which is pretty awesome. Rahu transits are so interesting. Like, to me, they just feel so different compared to other transits, because as I've gotten used to feeling the effects of transits and kind of like learning what each planet feels like, when Rahu comes, it's like the tools I might use to navigate it, they just don't seem to work as well. It doesn't seem to be as effective. The hold that Rahu has on you is, my experience, is so much more powerful, and because it's like you want those things, like even if it's against your better judgment, it's like you really don't care. You just need to do what's happening. I don't know how to explain it. I think the things that happen during this time need to happen, even if they're pretty terrible, or that the decisions that were made were not good decisions. I just feel like it needs to happen. But so it is a time of difficulties happening. Like, it's not like you're gonna go out and cause your own problems, not necessarily. There can just be other things in life that are more emotionally draining and taxing, but it's usually something that leads to some type of reaction that you may not have had before, some type of more intense reaction. I'm trying to think of some, like, if you want like a celebrity example, when Beyonce had Rahu transiting her moon, that's when all the cheating allegations came out. Like, her husband was cheating on her, and so she was having to deal with all that, and of course it was public, and that was the year where she kind of like cut her hair off all short and dyed and bleached it. And so you see stuff like that. You see people acting out in ways where they may not have before. This is also a transit that coincides with just a lot of changes in life, relocating, just because I mentioned it being an ungrounded feeling. There's usually some big changes happening that contribute to that ungrounded feeling. Moon is associated with home and mother, and so events with the mother can come up, changing homes, or some type of big changes in life that lead you to feeling more vulnerable can occur during this transit. This is also a time period that's trying to teach you to trust your own intuition and your inner guidance. And other big themes is just overcoming shadows, negative self-talk, and anxiety. These things can really be brought to the surface. I said some similar things when I made the Rahu transiting Sun video. Those things do occur, and it's similar during Rahu transiting Moon, but it's more about the intuition and the inner voice that you use as your guidance system. There might be something really toxic in your life, kind of like going back to addictions, or something really toxic in your life that this transit comes through and creates events that you're facing it, or you're facing a situation that's not working, and then completely changing it, and going through all that upheaval and fear, overcoming the fears around that situation. So just to summarize, Rahu transiting Moon is often an emotionally intense time where you can feel greater anxiety, greater fear, restlessness, discontent, because Rahu is all about desires and the materialistic side of life, and Moon gets very influenced by that because it's all about getting your needs met. So it can cause some ambition or a strong desire to change things in your life that's not working. It can trigger mental health breakdowns. It can cause a time when you're reaching for substances and abusing them heavily. It can lead to a breakdown point where the addiction can finally be addressed because it got so bad. And the negative self-talk, anxiety, these can all get ramped up, and you can find yourself doing shadow work during this time and learning to trust your inner guidance and your intuition more. It can also make a person act very foolish and do things that seem out of character because the Moon is so influenced by such a chaotic and ungrounded energy. So I hope that all made sense. If I feel like this is a pretty straightforward interpretation. If I think of anything else, I will write it in the article, which I will link to this video. And I hope you enjoyed. I look forward to making the next one.